For decades, the late-night talk shows were something Americans could watch at the end of the day to get a few laughs about current events, celebrity stupidity, or from other theatrics. Viewers couldn't tell Johnny Carson's politics because he was an equal opportunity offender. The same was true for Jay Leno and David Letterman, who were staples of late-night TV for a generation. But starting the evening following Donald Trump's victory over Hillary Clinton in 2016, late-night TV stopped being funny. In fact, the hosts were visibly distraught, you may recall, when they took to the air, speaking in a somber tone as if we had just experienced a national tragedy. They tried to pull themselves together over the following days and weeks, but late-night television was never the same. Today, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and Jimmy Fallon aren't merely entertainers. They are stealth propagandists whose political messages go down easier than those from news outlets because it's covered in comedy. Their agenda is no longer to make people laugh. It's to get them to cheer on the liberal agenda and attack conservatives. New York Magazine embraced comedy's new mission and asked, how funny does comedy need to be? Noticing that it wasn't very funny anymore, and noting that instead of creating the traditional comedic result, many comedians are instead focusing on their emotional impact. Comedy without comedy? At least they're being honest enough to admit the late night talk shows stopped being funny. Jay Leno was asked how much different late night comedy shows had become in the Trump era, and he admitted that it was now all one-sided and all very serious, and he wished that more civility would come back to the shows. Saturday Night Live alumni Rob Schneider noted that today, late night comedy is less about being funny and more about indoctrination by comedic imposition, and that people aren't really laughing at it as much as they are cheering on the rhetoric. But using comedy to promote a political agenda certainly isn't new. In an interview with CNN back in 2008, Chevy Chase openly admitted that he used his position on Saturday Night Live back in the 1970s for propaganda purposes. One of his skits was playing then President Ford, who was facing off against Jimmy Carter in the 1976 election, and Chase admitted this.
I just went after him, and I certainly, obviously my leanings were Democratic, and I wanted Carter in, and I wanted him out, and I figured, look, we're reaching millions of people every weekend, why not do it?
Wait a minute, you mean to tell me that in the back of your mind you were thinking, hey, I want Carter,
oh, yeah.
guy, and I'm going to make him look bad?
Oh, yeah. What do you think they're doing now? I mean, you think they were just doing this because Sarah's funny? No, I think that the show is very much more democratic and liberal oriented. That they're obviously more for Barack Obama than McCain.
Many people actually credit Tina Fey's depiction of Sarah Palin on Saturday Night Live with being largely responsible for people seeing her in a negative light, since the caricature overshadowed her actual personality. Since John Oliver uses his HBO show Last Week Tonight as more of a political soapbox than a place for comedy, some people are actually crediting him with influencing U.S. legislation and court rulings. The media has actually dubbed it the John Oliver effect. Time magazine actually ran a story titled How the John Oliver Effect is Having a Real-World Impact and detailed some of his political activism and the real-world consequences. Fortune magazine says that the comedian's impact is no joke and that his show could very well be the envy of some of the newsrooms around the country. Jimmy Kimmel is largely credited with killing Republicans' plan to repeal Obamacare after he spent several nights ranting and crying about it on his show back in 2017, claiming that it would prevent poor people from getting health care. He even used his newborn son Billy as a prop, who was born with a congenital heart defect, and claimed that if Obamacare was repealed, then other children with similar life-threatening conditions would die, which of course is a huge lie. CNN even admitted that Jimmy Kimmel sparked the media coverage that convinced Senator John McCain, who cast the deciding vote, to vote no on the repeal. But Kimmel wasn't coming up with his Obamacare material on his own. He was being briefed on it by Senator Chuck Schumer and other Democrat think tanks. Kimmel's propaganda efforts have extended far beyond healthcare. He's used children in skits about how disastrous global warming is. He pushes the COVID-19 vaccine mandate and even says that unvaccinated people should be refused medical care and left to die. He's even admitted that pushing his political views has cost him commercially, but neither he nor ABC care because it's for a good cause. Stephen Colbert took over The Late Show from David Letterman in 2015, and the ratings tanked immediately, and network execs worried that they made the wrong choice. But then Colbert found his true calling. He turned his nightly monologues into vitriolic anti-Trump editorials, winning him legions of fans who couldn't hear him complain about President Trump enough. Since then, he's come to play a big role in politics. Practically all of the Democrat candidates running for president in 2020 appeared on his show. Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Julian Castro, Beto O'Rourke, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, etc. CNN admitted that the Democrats see him as a crucial stop on the presidential roadshow. Poor Jimmy Fallon tried not to become a rabid anti-Trump ranter out of concerns that it would ostracize half of his viewers, but was reportedly pressured by NBC to stop being so soft on Trump. Industry-wide, Fallon was shunned and denounced after his 2016 interview with then Donald Trump, you may recall, because he didn't use the opportunity to tear into him and instead had fun like he does with all of his guests. Trump even famously let Jimmy mess up his hair to prove that it was real. But the liberal media was furious and claimed that Fallon had humanized him. He was shut out of the Emmys that year in what many speculate was retaliation for helping Trump. Fallon later apologized for being too friendly and said that people had a right to be mad. Despite trying to not have his show tainted with an obvious political agenda like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, Fallon soon bent to the will of his producers and started focusing more on President Trump and pushing social justice issues. After NBC fired Jay Leno as the Tonight Show host and replaced him with Jimmy Fallon in 2014, rumors were rampant in the industry that Leno was forced out because he was going too hard on President Obama. He was #1 in the ratings for 20 years and still #1 when he was forced out, so many people wondered why would NBC get rid of him since he was still on top. Leno was the first late-night comedian to take the gloves off and really start bashing President Obama. For years, all mainstream comedians treated him with kid gloves, and very few of their jokes really took him to task. But after all the hope and change wore off and was replaced by regret and despair for many Americans, Jay Leno started bashing Obama like nobody in the business. Right after Leno's final episode, Johnny Carson's former head writer Raymond Miller wrote an op-ed admitting that most of the late-night talk show hosts protected Obama and that Leno broke the mold by taking him to task. Sure, the other hosts joked about him, but it was all lighthearted humor and nothing like the way that comedians had treated previous presidents. And it's interesting that immediately after Jimmy Fallon replaced Jay Leno as the Tonight Show host, one of his first guests was Michelle Obama, who came out to promote Obamacare. There's so much more you should know about the entertainment industry, and if you like watching my videos, you'll love reading my books, because that's where I cover these issues completely uncensored and everything is fully sourced, and there's no disputing my research. So order my latest book, Hollywood Propaganda: How TV, Movies, and Music Shape Our Culture, in paperback from Amazon.com, or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores. And of course, there's a link to the Amazon listing in the description below, so click it and head on over there and check it out.